Yo, another day in the lab, baby. So it's always a good day.
Oh,
it's always a good day when we in the lab. You want policing to be better in your communities? The best policing that you can that can happen in any community are people that's actually from the community and that.
Once again, Rick, host BNY podcast, now known as What Happened Week with BNY Dev. How you feeling, man?
I'm in here.
What's good, comment section?
Here.
Do we drag our people down when sometimes they don't deserve it? For sure, absolutely. In this situation, this man deserves every single dragging that we can do because this is not an example of us.
But you got the angles. You got the knowledge of the game, bro.
This is where you're getting at, the IQ.
Down. Like he's telling you what's going on. He was a bad husband. He was just doing things his way. He's apologizing to his wife like, yo.
Pat ourselves on the back for that one because if you ain't give yourself awards, I mean, who is?
Yeah, no boy.
Hey. Go ahead and bring us in here. Bonaparte, keep doing your thing. And we're live. Sarah, how you doing?
Hi, good. How are you, Ricky? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's feel like it's been so long to get this podcast up and running.
Yeah, sorry. The scheduling is tight, but thank you for working with me.
Oh, not just you, on me too as well. So I know at one point you weren't feeling well, so we got that scheduled. Then we had the new date, the 15th, had to get that rescheduled too as well, based on my schedule. So we're here doing a matinee podcast.
Yes.
Once again, Ricky Williams here with you, set man, host, moderator, BNY Network. Got our esteemed guests for the evening, or for the afternoon, I should say. What's going on, Stacey? We have Sarah Freeman Proctor. Round of applause. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
For sure.
Hi,
For
Stacey.
sure. How's your week been?
It's been the start has been good. We had a good weekend with the family. Last week was a little hectic, a little crazy, but juggling many hats. But it's been good.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
You had an event earlier today, correct?
I had a planning session. I don't want to steal there's many partners involved, so I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. It'll be announced soon, but yeah, we had a planning session for an event coming up. So
okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I look forward to it.
Yes.
Yeah, I want to hear more about this. Let's see what we got here. Mr. Leftwich. Finally, I met Mr. Leftwich on Saturday at the Juneteenth event over the shops at Waldorf. Yeah, he was there. Had some good conversation with him. So definitely, Michael Leftwich. It was good to meet you. Got to do it again sometime soon. Kelly, how you doing tonight too as well? How you doing today? This afternoon, not tonight. This afternoon. It's a little bit different for us here. So
it is.
Yeah. So. Yeah, my week's been great. I can't complain at all. But I definitely want to keep this time to focus on you. Okay. And we can just dive right into it if you want to. Okay. So one thing about candidates is that I'm not going to say that I judge candidates based off how many signs they have out here, but what you've done so far as far being around the county, your online presence too as well. It's everywhere. It's not. I feel like it's not one turn I make here without a Sarah Freeman Proctor blue and baby blue sign just sitting out there. So,
well, when I decided to run last fall, one of the things that I talked about with my committee and my husband was that the county is so large, really. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, getting the presence outside of the legal field and outside of the families that I've worked with, like getting to the county, was important. So getting the signage, getting the signage out there, getting the website up, getting the social media up and out was important to start that early, because I knew really once spring came and the weather changed, then it's time to get out to the people. Then it's time to make that people contact wherever you can. And I didn't want to be worrying about signs and all that then. I get that part over with, right, so that from April on it's contact with people.
Because I believe you were the first one to have your sign up. I'm pretty sure you're the first one I saw.
Yes.
I just saw your sign there. I'm like, got to find out some more research about this individual. And I saw your career too as well. I'll let you get into that. But read some of these comments real quick. Pascal, you said it's too early, but here you are. Here you are. How you doing, Pascal? Saw you again on Saturday too as well. Angela, thank you for making it. I appreciate it. I know you're concerned with the schedule of the podcast earlier, but thank you for taking your time with us. Derek Terry, good to see you as always. Talked to him early today. Definitely good guy. He'll be with us on the July 19th the election podcast too as well. Absolutely. Michael Leftwich, like Michael, the shorts were of proper length. Don't do that to me. Don't do that to me here, man. All right, Sarah, let's go. Let's get into it. So, and also, everybody out there, if you're watching too as well, please feel free to give us a like and share too as well. As how we grow as a podcast. Dev's not here today. He had to take care of some work things. Got a fan on too as well. Hopefully, it's not too shouldn't be too crazy for the audio. So, without further ado, let's get into it.
Sure.
Sarah, do you go by Sarah Freeman Proctor or just Sarah Proctor or?
So I go, I'll address that. So I go by Sarah Proctor. Sarah's fine. When I first started working here in Charles County, I was Sarah Freeman, though.
Okay.
So it wasn't until 2019 that my husband and I officially got married and I changed my name. Mm-hmm. So when we were deciding for the signs, I knew that a lot of people were still going to know me as Sarah Freeman because 2020 COVID came. So that's why it's Sarah Freeman Proctor. My name is not hyphenated or anything. My middle name is officially Freeman now, since I got married. But I knew that people would recognize Freeman more so than Proctor.
Okay.
But Proctor is my legally, officially last name that has to go on the signs.
Got it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Talk more about your family.
So my husband, his family is originally from Delaware, but we met in Florida. My mom is one of 6. Most of them were born here in Maryland. My grandfather was in the Navy. My dad was in the Navy. My mom met my dad when he was in the Navy. And they got married in Cheverly, Maryland at St. Ambrose Church. And the day after they got married, his job was waiting for him in Miami. He was an electrical engineer because he was a Morse code operator on the submarines during his Navy career.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah. So the day after they got married, they moved to Florida. I was born and raised in Florida, specifically Broward County. It was right on the line of Broward County and Miami-Dade County. So went to school down there, graduated from Florida State University, went to law school down by my parents' house in Nova Southeastern Law to save some money. Moved back in with them. It was great after being out. And then, unfortunately, in 2005, my father passed away suddenly from cancer.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, so after that, most of us, the kids, because I'm one of 5, were out of the house, like done, gone, out of the house. And my mom was down there by herself, and it was hard for her to stay in a family home. My dad actually helped build a lot of it. So she wanted to come back to her family here in Maryland, that we're still in Maryland. My grandmother was still alive at that point. So I moved first, and then she followed. We had Matthew, and then we bought a house in Charles County. We added on for my mother. She has like her own mother-in-law suite off of it. And yeah, then we got married, and yeah, so we're here.
And been here ever since.
Yeah.
And also, you have children?
Yeah, so I have a 7-year-old. I have a 7-year-old boy.
Nice.
He goes to Archbishop Neal in La Plata. So
okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, we got my 3 inside too as well.
Yeah.
Soon to be 9-year-old. He'll be 9 as of Wednesday. Then 7-year-old. Then the little baby should be 2 in August. So.
They keep you on your toes, don't you?
All damn day. It's crazy.
I don't mind it. I have a lot. Matthew, so far in the school, we're only into our 2nd week of summer, or 1 week really. And even we've had 2 sleepovers even before school stopped. And it's just, I'm like, oh, I have 1 kid. But for a sleepover after one night of 4 or 5, I'm like, all right, I'm good. I'm good with the 1. they keep you on your toes. I'm like, I have a full-time job. I'm good.
Yeah, nobody goes to sleep. Yeah,
No,
I get it.
I mean,
I get it.
They're his group, they're very easygoing, and they're
That's
a lot
good.
of fun. But more, they keep you on your toes.
Hey, there it is. Running for judge and also a person of the community too as well. Love to see it. Let's get to some of these comments before we go from here. So, Donald Poole, what's going on, Donald? How you doing? How you doing today, Donald? All right, so Michael Leftwich has a question for you, and this goes to a point that was that.
No, go ahead. I'm gonna grab my glasses while you read it.
Okay. All right. So, are you currently a sitting judge, or are you trying to be elected? So, just for the people, if you want to just answer that question.
So I've been a prosecutor for 19 years, locally the last 8 and almost 8.5. So no, I'm still a local prosecutor. I'm a senior prosecutor in the St. Mary's office right now. I was with Charles County up until February of 2020. So the way the process works is once there's a vacancy, the governor will make an appointment until the election, because the Constitution requires that the people elect the judge. So there will always be an election to fill a circuit court judge spot. Appellate courts and everything else, there's retention, but in district court judges, specifically appointment. But for the circuit court judge, the Constitution requires an election.
Good. And if you're elected, how long will you serve for?
15-year terms are the circuit court judges.
Cool. All right. Now we knock on some of the basics here. Mr. Poole said he'll behave today. Hey, we'll see. We'll see, Donald. Nah, thanks for coming back, man. Definitely appreciate you. So let's start from the top. So what made you want to get in law in the first place?
So when I was with when I was going to school, I should say, at Florida State University, I had a job.
Seminoles.
Yeah. I had a job working for a nonprofit, the Center for Independent Living of North Florida. And we helped those with mental health needs, substance abuse needs, and just disabilities. Anything from they needed mental health, a ramp built in their house, to counseling, to other services. So I was hired, though, to do some grant work, and they had a lot of grant funding. So if you've ever worked on grants, it can be very technical, especially to keep the payment process up and abide by the rules and terms of grants. Mm-hmm. There's audits continuously. So I was hired for that purpose while I was at Florida State University. And during that, they changed executive directors in the middle of like the 3 years that I was there. And the director that came on, she changed some things. And the way she changed some things, it wasn't really kosher with the grants. Mm-hmm. So I tried explaining it to her first, and she came from, I forget what state, but some state outside, somewhere out west, and they didn't work with grants, and she just thought it was no big deal, and she kind of went around me and made payments and deals or whatever, and sure enough, we got audited. And yeah, it wasn't good. So it wasn't good. So and then I was like, all right, I want to go into, because I had to start looking up the law, because at first I'm like, am I going to be held responsible, like personally responsible for this? Because I didn't and we had to get the board involved, and it was a mess. So I got interested in the law that way, and then I didn't change my major because I was political science anyways, but I added some minors. I added a minor in communication and a minor in criminology. Okay. And then from there, I went to law school.
And where'd you go to law school at?
Nova Southeastern. It's in technically Davie, Florida, kind of a subsidiary of Fort Lauderdale. It was close to my parents' house, so I could move back in, save money, live with them, and commute to law school. So I did.
Okay. I always want to ask, so what exactly is law school like? How many years? What do you have to do? You have to do like mock trials, cases, things of that sort?
So I think
what's the process for that?
So from what I understand, it varies by law schools, because obviously talking to friends who went to different law schools. So the way that Nova Southeastern did it, depending on how much time you put in on the summers, you could get finished in less than 4 years. Mm-hmm. But if you took summers off, you were going to be there for 4 years. Okay. I did it in 3 years because I did summers.
Oh, you were working.
So, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, let's just get this. Yeah. I did some summers, and then the last semester, the way Nova Southeastern offered you is if you knew you wanted to go into litigation, meaning if you wanted to go into be in the courtroom every day and argue cases and argue law and facts and everything, that's what's called a litigation track. Mm-hmm. But they also had a civil business side track that you could take too, like corporate law and stuff like that. So I opted for the litigation. So they placed us throughout the state in different states' attorney's office or office of the public defenders as a internship to finish your last semester. And it was part of your grade, and part of you had to do projects during there and turn in your research and all sorts of stuff. So that's what got me to Jacksonville. Is my internship for my last semester placed me at the state's attorney's office in Jacksonville.
Nice.
Florida. Okay. So I did an internship there, and then at the end of the May they offered me a job, which at that point I'm like, I don't have to go looking. So
come on now.
Yeah, they paid me during the summer hourly while I studied for the bar. I took the bar in July and passed, and then August I started as a salary official assistant state's attorney.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Humble beginnings. All right, we'll pause right there, get some of these questions. Okay. Don't worry, Derek Terry. Don't worry. It was coming up. So this is a good time to actually ask this question. So there's certain things you can't talk about, you can't talk about. That's what Derek is asking here. If you could, just for the podcast purposes, explain to us what you can and cannot talk about as a judge candidate.
Okay, so the easiest way I think to explain it is that I have to stay impartial on any issues that may come before me. And as a circuit court judge, you have a wide range of cases that may come before you, from administrative down to civil, down to family, and down to criminal. And just the other day, someone asked me about, here's an example, what my position is about critical race theory being in the schools. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm sorry, I can't answer that. And she didn't understand, she didn't understand, and I explained, I said, at any time, if it's mandated, a pro group, opponent group, whatever, could file an injunction. Mm-hmm. And that injunction may become before me in the circuit court. So I can't answer that question. So you kind of have to know what hot issues are out there, but the best advice to give yourself is just stay away from anything legal of giving a certified opinion that this is what I will do if I'm elected. So you can't say, this is what I'll do if I'm elected. So
basically today, I can't, hey, Sarah, there's this active cases going on. How would you rule on it?
I can't.
There it is.
I mean, even as
it is the same thing with Judge Brown when she was here too as well.
Yeah, and for 19 years as a prosecutor, I've been having to do the same thing. I've had friends and family that will ask me about a case pending in the office. And I'm like, I can't, even if it's not mine. I'm like, I can't. Like, we have our own oaths and duties. I can't talk about it. And that answer to anyone that's tried to approach me has always been acceptable. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't, my ethics and the rules don't allow me to talk about the cases. So I've kind of been used to closing yourself off into answering questions like that for the last 19 years.
Right, and that's because you have to, based off the job you have. Yeah. Not because, just get away from me, I'm not answering the question. Yeah. So let's get into some of these questions too as well. So Mr. Leftwich is a little confused here. So obviously with Judge Brown, she was appointed by the governor, but you're running for she was appointed by the governor, but you're running for judge. So do you want to explain how that whole process worked?
So it goes back to the Maryland Constitution. If there's a vacancy, the governor, for the stability of the cases and the court process to continue, the governor makes an appointment process. And from the appointment, the next general election, is supposed to be the judicial race where the Constitution, the people elect their judge. So you can go through what's called the Judicial Nominating Commission process, or you can just throw your hat in and run. I've done both.
What is that process like, throwing your name in the hat as far as the nomination process?
The Judicial Nominating Commission?
Yes.
So it was a lot. I'm trying to think of the right word. I guess intense is the right word. It was intense, but it's a lot. There's a lot going on that I've learned. I mean, I only did it once. There's a lot going on in the background that at least you didn't know, you don't know about. And you find out in the end, and it's, it is what it is.
It's more so like who you know or things of that sort, or?
I don't know if it's really who you know or what's going on in the community. I don't really know that it's a who you know. Mm-hmm. I think, my experience, it's what's going on in the background that affected it.
Okay. Mr. Leftwich is asking, so you didn't make it through nominations?
No, I did not. The Judicial Nominating Commission is 13. They're not. It's been said that they're residents of this county. They are not all residents of Charles County. Mm-hmm. I have personally been to one of the commission members' houses that's outside this county, where they sleep at night and raise their family. So it's been said, they're members of this community. No, they're not. They're not all members of Charles County, like residents, if you will. They may work here in Charles County, but they are not residents. They are not all residents of Charles County. So those 13 people, which 13 people compared to 168,000 population, those 13 people receive the application that you fill out, and you go through this other process if you choose to. You don't have to interview with all the other specialty bars in the state, like the bar groups. But you can. And then they will interview you. It was a 45-minute interview by the Judicial Nominating Commission.
Mm-hmm.
They interview. I got asked 7 questions. Most of them were just plain typical questions. I got asked 7 questions, and from there, then they do a deliberation vote type thing, and they either put your name on the list to the governor or they don't. So it's very 13 people is very isolating.
It's a lot of power.
To 168,000 population ours was from the 2020 census. Yeah.
So your goal here now is to let the people decide based on your merits and experience and background versus obviously the nomination process and the work in your favor.
Yeah, and I mean the Constitution requires that too. And a circuit court judge, the position that people should vote in their circuit court judges. The circuit court judges have a very, very wide discretion on decisions that will be put before them that will be for the good and bad of this community, that will benefit people, not benefit people. So and I like that the Constitution requires its election by the people. The appointment is just to fill the vacancy until the election. And
that's what Judge Brown, that's how she got her seat was appointed to her by Governor Hogan.
Correct.
But now she has to run for election because it's that time again.
Correct.
There we go. Pascal's a question here. Our community is predominantly black and brown. I'm looking to see who will be fair and unbiased in their rulings. It's hard for me to vote for someone that doesn't yet have experience or reckon I can examine. So basically, she wants to know that where can we research you, examine you, talk to me about your record, your past, things of that sort.
Okay. So, to my knowledge, there's 3 candidates. There's Judge Brown and Adrian Davis, and none of us have been a judge before and have a judicial record as a circuit court judge to research. Maryland Case Search, you can put my name in as a party name, and thousands and thousands and thousands of cases will come up in 8.5 years. As I was an assistant state's attorney, I have put some of the major cases that I've done on my website, which is www.thepeopleforsarahproctor.com. You can look at some of the major cases there. As far as on Case Search, it won't tell you though whether it was the sentence was something that the state agreed to or not. So Case Search, you'll see the disposition, but you won't be able to see whether it was at the recommendation of myself or it was something that the court did because we agreed that the court could make the decision as part of the negotiation. So, but at least you can see the types of cases I did, and my website as well has a significant amount of the major cases here in Charles County that I did.
I want to talk about that. I want to get some of these questions real quick, though. I want to get back to some of your cases you have worked on here. Let's see. Scroll down. All right. So, Pascal, did they give you feedback as far as why you didn't get nominated?
So, no. They did not give me any feedback. And I actually filed a letter to the Judicial Nominating Commission on August 4th of, what year are we? 2021, yeah. Requesting them to reconvene because it was rumored then that there was only one name on the list. There was, I think, 4 of us that applied, but they were only putting one name at that point to the governor. So I filed a letter through my official application file through Maryland courts, through the human resources up there. I actually spoke with human resources in advance about filing this letter of how the process is, and they had told me that it was the process that I was going to do by this letter was the correct one to do. So I actually filed a letter requesting them to reconvene to discuss this, and I did not hear a single word. Never got a reply, never got nothing.
Is that normal?
I don't know. I've never been through this before, so no one really knew. There was no one that really could give. Human resources, you can call them, but they really couldn't, because of the confidentiality on their end, they couldn't really give a step-by-step. But I said, I would like to know. There were some issues going on at the time that I believe affected it, so I wanted to address that if that was the issue. But I never got an answer for my letter. As a Judicial Nominating Commission, having that much power, if you will, you think you could respond to the letter, either deny or something, but I heard nothing. So that's where it stood.
would you want to go into what those issues were? Is that something you want to talk about, or is that more so personal? It's 100% up to you.
I think that's what you... Well, I think because you had already asked me before we started. So I didn't know when you wanted to get into it. We can get into it.
We can get into it. I know Leftwich is asking too as well.
Okay. So at the time, that first week in August, I was notified by the Judicial Disability Commission, different from the Judicial Nominating Commission. The Judicial Disability Commission is the commission that governs judicial conduct on the bench of the judges. And back in June of 2020, prior to the vacancy of the position that I'm running for now being even open for application, meaning the Judicial Nominating Commission wasn't even accepting applications. So back in June of 2020, I was the State's Attorney's Office, St. Mary's, had a different configuration, if you will, because we went through some administrative changes. But I was the chief of the Special Victims Unit in St. Mary's at that time, which meant I supervised a portion of district court, one attorney that was there. She and a lead detective of some cases in St. Mary's County brought me a CD of jail calls one morning as her supervisor to review that they found concerning. So I listened to the calls. My boss, the state attorney, was in the office that day because this was during the shutdown of COVID. There was very, very few of us that went in every day due to the subject matter of what I went on. The cases I was working with was child abuse, rapes, domestic violence, that which was on the rise with everyone being forced to stay home. It wasn't appropriate language for my son, so I chose to go into work every day. So my boss was there, the state attorney, Rick Fritz. We discussed the call. We discussed what was on the audio recordings. I immediately knew whose voice it was. The detective had already done her research and pulled the cell phone records and had the subscriber information. But I recognized the voice as appearing before this judge in Charles County for many, many years as Judge William Lou Hennessy. So, that decision was made at that time that the calls needed to be forwarded to the Judicial Disabilities Commission. My boss has said a number of times since then that he probably should have signed the paper himself, because if anyone could predict what would happen for the next 2 years, I don't think anyone could. So I sent it up not thinking about any future in my career or anything.
Just doing your job at this point.
Just doing my job. I have an ethical duty. The subject nature, which I'm not going to get into all the details. If you guys want to read about it, it's a public finding. It's on the Judicial Disabilities Commission, MD courts. Go for it, read it. The public finding's up. But that jail call, the district court attorney was obligated, that CD of calls, to send out in discovery because they were trying to get the victim to recant. So,
wow.
She was obligated to send it out. And once she sent it out, that meant the defense attorney would have it, and it could be played in court in front of another judge. Not that any of us were trying to sweep it under the rug, but in being asked all these questions, her bar license was at stake. My bar license was at stake now that I listened to it, if anyone ever found out that these existed, for not reporting it. But that didn't even factor in our decision because it was so clear-cut. If you were... For the last 10 years, domestic violence cases have been a part of my caseload. So...
Yeah, SV, yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, if you work these cases and to hear these calls... it was not a question. It was a matter of how and what the policies of my current boss, with that being Rick Fritz, had in place for a situation like this, and making sure that all policies were followed. So I sent it up. There is confidentiality rules when a complaint is filed on a judge. The public does not know, so you all found out in August of 2021.
Article, yep, public knowledge, yep.
Yep, but I've known since June of 2020 because I'm the complainant, and I don't say that. I say that that's just the problem of our society. Like, it's like I've known, and I've had people come up to me as friends of Judge Hennessy. You know, I had a fundraiser at Foster's Grill, and I had a guy come up to me then saying I'd never get a dime from this county in my election.
Recently?
Oh, yeah, in Foster's in February. Had a guy come up, table of witnesses, came up, he introduced himself, wouldn't get a dime, listed all these names, told me I wouldn't get a dime from this county.
As somebody that we know in this county.
Well, I'm not going to say his name. I don't know who knows it. He thinks everyone knows him, but he came up, he came up, introduced himself to me and the table I was sitting with.
And just said that?
Oh, he went right into it. Mm-hmm.
A Hennessy loyalist? Loyalist? What's the word I'm looking for?
Huh?
Somebody that's loyal to, you think the Hennessy is?
He said he was a friend of Judge Hennessy. He said that, Judge Hennessy had come to his place of business and told him all about it. And, yeah. So that was in February of this year at Foster's Grill in La Plata during my fundraiser. It was the Wednesday night of that week. I think in January it was, I had someone else come up to me. I was at a meeting. He came up to me, asked me where the status was, and gave me his thoughts on whether or not I should have followed my ethical duty. I thanked him, and then I left. So it hasn't been easy. It hasn't been easy. If anyone thinks that was done easily, it was not.
Yeah, because Judge Hennessy is a very powerful individual.
I still respect Judge Hennessy. I appeared in front of him many, many, many times.
Mm-hmm.
There was a homicide that happened on his property, and I was actually the prosecutor of that homicide.
That happened on his property?
That happened on his property, yes. So, it was a big homicide because there was 4 defendants involved, and a young man was shot and killed. And I met with him several times because one of his sons was a witness, and I knew another side of him outside of just appearing in court. So this was not easy for me. It was not something that I was marching on to do, but in the end I had to follow my ethical duty, and it was done, and I've taken a hit from it. I've taken a hit.
Yeah, and I mean, first of all, damn, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. That situation like that could affect your nomination process too, as well.
That's why I filed the letter, because up until when I went through my interview with the Judicial Nominating Commission, which was, I believe it was March, like, it wasn't public yet, and the knowledge of the complaint and who the complaint wasn't public.
Mm-hmm. So
Hennessy could go around, tell whoever he wanted. I could say I filed a complaint, but I couldn't talk about what the complaint was. So what was the point of saying I filed a complaint if I can't say what I filed a complaint on who and why, you know?
Hennessy can go around talking about it.
He could go around talking about it.
And mention your name too as well?
Yeah. Yeah. No, he could leak who the complainant was.
Good Lord.
So, I mean, he did that because I had some guy come up to,
Yeah.
So that was the purpose of filing the letter, because the other players involved, and you will, of the complaint, and again, you can go read it. There were other attorneys involved. There was the Office of the Public Defender was involved too, and there was a lot of concern of whether the fallout would just end with Judge Hennessy. So there were a lot of people that did not appreciate, because now their names were being dragged into it, because of the misconduct involved other lawyers in this town and the Office of the Public Defender. So,
wow.
To a good majority of the legal field, it was not seen as a popular decision, but popularity does not affect my decision making, and it will never will.
I'm getting some of these comments here. I know you've been typing nonstop. Do you think that's affected? Has anyone else been affected by that, or do you think that? That's kind of subjective, but.
So, what does it say? Did Fritz what?
Did Fritz, where's that right here?
Yes.
Kelly, did Fritz not want you to report it?
No, he wanted me to. We talked about it. He did want me to. He did okay it. He has told me several times since then he should have signed the paper and not me.
Right.
He should have gone down as the complainant, because he's elected and he's more like, he knows daily what I suffered. But yeah. So what was the other question?
As far as anyone else involved with you on that, did they taken? Has there been anything unfavorable?
Well, I'm the only name on the complaint paperwork. So in the Judicial Nominating Commission, there was actually, so the CD that was brought to me involved one case, and through their investigation, they found a whole nother case. So there was 2 cases from what they found. Their investigation revealed that it was not just one incident of misconduct on one case. So it was much larger that their investigation uncovered. So I kind of took the hit for it all. No one else's name was on there, and throughout the process, I know others were interviewed, but as far as if anything is happening to them, the attorney grievance side of it, if there is anything, that's all still confidential. I don't even know that anything exists. I wouldn't be updated on that side. They're 2 separate entities, so I'm only updated through letters and a simple phone call from the Judicial Disability Commission of what the status is as we were going through this. Because Judge Hennessy could have resolved this without it becoming public at all. That's another side. The Judicial Disabilities Commission, they can make deals, if you will, with a judge who's alleged misconduct and resolve it under confidences, and the public never finds out. Yeah. So I was, as they were moving through each step, I would get updated as to it, so that I could make decisions and know what, if anything, was coming further down. So I filed the letter and I didn't get a response. So I don't know is, I guess, the big way to say I do think that this played a role in it, but I don't know the magnitude or how much, because I never got a response from the Judicial Disabilities Commission.
But you already get responses in person at public events.
Yeah, I mean, when you get approached twice, your very first 2 events, once you announce out in public,
I know the people are asking for a name, but you said you would keep that one.
I'm not, because I've been doing this, and he was acting as a friend of Judge Hennessy, even though it was wrong. They both were, and it.
Charles County, this is.
At some point, this has to die down and it has to stop. So
right.
I will stop the circular of names and stop the circle filtration of names, because at some point, for everyone's sanity, this does need to stop blaming who's to blame next.
Got it. Okay. Let's read some of these comments. Let's see. Let me scroll up a little bit. Angela, let's see your comment there too as well. I'm going to come back to that.
Okay.
Let's see if there's anything on topic here before we wrap this one up. We're going to have mic issues again. How's my mic? Can you hear me? Can you hear me well? How's it sound? Do I sound like I'm going in and out? Let me know. Let's see here. Let's go scroll down. No, he's moving around like this. No, I'm fine. I used to have every single podcast.
You are scrolling so fast. How do you read all this?
Been doing it for a while.
I know. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you. All right, we're there. Okay. All right, I know exactly where to get back to.
Okay.
Yeah, Radio Shack again. All right, hold on 1 second. Let's try to fix this mic. Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question. I'm gonna let you talk, then I'm gonna do some things in my end.
Okay.
So let's move it up from here. Move up. There's another question I wanted to get to. Scroll back down.
Why is Leftwich saying he's done with crying? Oh, okay. All right.
Comment from earlier.
Okay, all right.
I'll forward to you with the Constitution, United States of Maryland.
Okay. So, I would say I'm very fluid. There are some areas that still pop up today and I have to go research. I think that's just normal. But with the basis of criminal law, due process affects every case. The 14th Amendment, the right to seizure, searches, the right to counsel. Those are the 5th and 6th Amendments. You have the Bill of Rights, which is the founding principles, if you will. All of those affect every single criminal case.
Mm-hmm.
Usually our motion to suppresses, when they're filed, are based on an amendment violation. So first you look to the U.S. Constitution. So, and then you look to the Maryland Constitution. the Maryland Constitution just can't overstep the United States Constitution. They can narrow itself on issues, but they can't go broader than the U.S. Constitution. So as a criminal prosecutor, the constitutions are in our daily lives, if you will, when we're at work and reviewing cases. As a prosecutor, you get to decide, you're given the discretion whether to institute charges. Sometimes officers will bring the state's attorney's office the case from the get-go and they say, this is what I have. And you can institute the charges yourself through a grand jury indictment, or you can have the officer go file the charges. And lots of times the officers won't even come to the state's attorney's office because they don't have to. It's whatever operating agreement your state attorney and local law enforcement has.
Okay.
So you will get a case to review based on an officer's arrest, and you have to make sure that the constitutional rights were not violated, because if they will, that could dismiss the case. So you have to check for your constitutional rights, make sure the rights of the defendant, the accused, and that the police followed the constitutional guidelines. And then you have to decide if that's a yes, then do you have the evidence? Do you have your burden of proof to meet? And that's beyond a reasonable doubt. And if that's a yes, then you proceed with charges. So the weighing of the Constitution and knowing the Constitution, at least for a criminal prosecutor, is every day, every case that comes before me.
So there's no, maybe I interpret it as this, or I see it as that, someone else can see it differently. You're just going strictly about what the words say, and that's that. Yes.
So, and the actual case law is that if some word is not defined, you are to go by the plain meaning of the word. So there's Webster's Dictionary if you need it. I will tell you, I've had several jury questions. The word malicious is throughout crime. Like, malicious intent is throughout there. I've had several juries in Charles County. They will send back the question, what does malicious mean? And there is no definite definition for malicious. There's no criminal law and the judge is right. Please use your common sense in determining what malicious means.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh wow!
I
always hear that word a lot. At least
yes.
on the legal shows that I watch.
Yeah. So it's just, but those are the types of questions we get. So, but again, it goes back to the Constitution, and we can't make up our own interpretation, our own definition, if you will.
Okay. Everybody, how's my mic sound? I put the phone to my ears to check out a few things. I think it sounds good now. Thank you very much with the audio issues. I think I know what the problem is. I think I got it bad. I think one of my cables is going bad, but I got like 10 of them in the back. So let's keep going from here.
So Leftwich, yes. I saw your comment on another, I think it was the Charles County Sheriff's Office post. Wait, hold on. Yeah, right
scroll
there.
Down.
No, right there.
This one right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how much leeway does a judge have for sentencing opposed to this crackpot third-party monitoring? Keep repeat offenders locked up. Okay. So that whole second half of your question, Leftwich, that's something I can't really comment on because then I wouldn't be impartial. But I can answer your first part. So how much leeway does judge have for sentencing? They have a lot. So the Maryland guidelines, the legislature through a committee puts out Maryland guidelines, and they were just revised and implemented again in February of this year. The judges they really don't have to, but they do look to them as they are guidelines. And they are given reasons of departure codes to go above the guidelines and go below the guidelines. In these reasons of departures, there's a catch-all in both, to either go below or above. There's totality of circumstances. So a judge could cite totality of circumstances, this circumstance and this circumstance, and, based on what they heard, and go above, or they can go below. So a judge has wide discretion in sentencing, very wide.
And obviously you can't get to the back half of that because, like you said, impartial.
Yeah.
So there it is, wide. Okay, all right. Let's see, Jamila Smith. Jamila, how you doing? She'll be on BNY next Tuesday. Looking forward to that podcast. What type of cases would a circuit court judge preside over?
So circuit court judge presides over felonies of the criminal offenses or a misdemeanor if it is filed in circuit court, but it has to be a 3-year or more penalty or $5,000 or more fine. And then you have your civil cases. You have family law, you have administrative, like injunctions and stuff. You have review of a magistrate's decision. You have your matrimony, your weddings, your civil ceremonies. And then there is the juvenile. Once a magistrate goes through what's called kind of like an initial appearance of the juvenile, and they go to the adjudication phase, the case then transfers from the magistrate to the circuit court judge. So the circuit court judge does oversee the juvenile docket of cases.
Okay. Angela, how do you feel about the overall? How do you feel overall about the mandates and other orders that have been put in place that were in the name of for the public good, but not in line with the Constitution?
All right, so that's kind of something like in the beginning that I said that I'm not going to be able to answer because, again, if any injunctions are filed, they could, if I'm elected, they could come before me. So I really can't get into my opinion on anything that may come before me.
Yeah, and
Sorry.
I don't want anyone coming to me, so I asking me questions too as well. Don't get us caught up out here today. But it's important to ask a question and know exactly what you can't. So that's good. Let's see. All right.
Yes, Angela, on this one you are correct. When you see a law that reads at the end, at the discretion of the court, it means the judge can do what they want. So if it's at the discretion of the court, it means whatever the action is, if it's a sentencing, if it's a fine, if whatever it is, if it says at the discretion of the court, that means it's up to the court. When the law has the word shall in it, that means that the judges have no discretion. Shall is shall.
Oh, learn something new every day as far as that goes. That Joseph Mink, how you doing? Leftwich, good job with the comment. I'm going back and forth. I'm trying to fight audio issues too as well, but I appreciate you. That Joseph Mink comment. Joseph Mink, how you doing? Saw him on Saturday too as well, friend of the podcast. Can we I can read the comment, but I don't know if you can.
One here? Okay.
Yes, I don't know if that's anything that we can actually talk about for you.
Let me read it.
Go ahead.
So yeah, Mr. Mink, that is something I was talking about. There is a catch-all on both. So that if the judge went above the guidelines, then he cited totality of circumstances or special circumstance of the victims or the heinous nature of the injury. All those are valid to go above the guidelines if the judge chose to do so.
Okay. Let's talk about your time as a prosecutor.
Sure.
So, how many years in Charles County?
2014, close to 6.5, almost 6.5.
Can we talk about some of your past cases?
Sure.
All right. So you did a lot.
As long as they're in the past and they're not in the appeal stage, but I know which ones are in the appeal stage. So
okay.
I researched those.
Anything as far as domestic violence, abuse?
Yes. Okay.
What can you talk about as far as your past cases?
So, I mean, I can talk about them. I mean, it's prevalent. It's still an issue in our society.
Okay. Yeah, please, floor's yours.
So there's, I've had domestic violence with silent victims and with active participatory victims. Every victim, whether it's domestic violence or even a child abuse case, every victim's different. Human nature, you're going to react differently. Mm-hmm. So I learned very early on that if I was going to do this field and line of cases, you can't put each victim in a bubble. You can't label each victim. You can't do anything like that. You have to let them be them and get them the services they need, the counseling, get all that in place. Have the conversations that, I really wish you follow through. Mm-hmm. But if they don't, they don't. But to me, that doesn't mean just because they don't, then I stop doing my job.
Right.
Obviously, it will affect the cases, the strength of the case, but still, especially when we have the repeat offenders that come back time and time again, as society, there needs to be something just done. So some cases, unfortunately, if the victim was not cooperative, we're not able to go forward because the evidence isn't there. Some cases we are. I just had a trial. We just sentenced the guy in May, but the trial was during the first reopening. The courts reopened, closed again, then reopened again from COVID. Mm-hmm. So the trial was during the first reopening. And there was a domestic violence. It was a first-degree assault, attempted murder. And this couple had a repeat history, and the warrant was issued, and within 2 weeks later, the victim was deceased.
Oh.
And I still went forward. I still went forward based on the evidence that we had. It was pretty bad, and we had witnesses and everything, and the jury found him guilty. So when you're dealing with domestic violence, it really just depends on what the facts and circumstances are, if you can hold the person accountable or not. Mm-hmm. Here in Charles, that case was St. Mary's, but here in Charles County, it's on my website. A case that you guys will probably remember if you follow is, and I just ran into her recently, a victim. Her husband was a PG County corrections officer, and she was a corrections officer herself. And he handcuffed her to their basement stairwells, like going down to their basement, and repeatedly stabbed her.
Oh my God.
Basically left her for dead. The reason why the officers got there is because no one came to pick up the kids from school. So the school called, not getting a response from her, called the family, and the family's like, she was home. She had a night shift, but she should have been home. So then they found her, and lots of people were amazed that she pulled through, but she participated. She was torn because she had kids, but she knew, but she participated, and in the end, that case did not go to trial. He did take a plea to attempted second-degree murder. Mm-hmm. So we didn't have to have a trial. The kids didn't have to go through a trial, and he got the attempted second degree, and I believe false imprisonment or kidnapping. But that case is up on my www.thepeopleforsarahproctor.com. That case is up on my website. State versus Armando Rodriguez. So,
question for you, Kelly's comment right here. Is that
she got Carla? So yes, I was the prosecutor on the Carlos Bell case.
What is that?
So unfortunately, there was a time period, and I don't think it's still continuing, because I do believe that the Charles County Public School System has done a very, very good job in their screening of prospective employees since then. But during the from 2016 to 2018, I handled, unfortunately, a number of teachers that were sexually abusing children. One of the cases was the State versus Carlos Bell. He was a teacher assistant at Benjamin Stoddard, and also helped with the track team and football at La Plata High School and McDonough. And he was sexually abusing his students, ranged from the ages of 11 to 17. 42 victims were identified. They were identified through his computers and his phones. So
he's taking pictures, videos?
He was videoing it all and taking
Good
pictures. The reason why we got his phone and stuff is because a mom of a La Plata High School student had an app on her phone that could tell her when her son was using his phone, and it like alerted her that he was using it after some hours at night that they said no more phones. So she checked his phone and saw some inappropriate text messaging, and he hadn't done anything with that kid yet, but he was like grooming him. So she called the police, and the police got a warrant for the phone to get the messages. We got that phone, and then we found so much more. And then we got his computer from his house and everything else. And Carlos Bell was also, what complicated, he was also HIV positive.
Oh my God.
So we had a team, because none of these kids that we identified ever came forward.
None of them.
None of them. So you
said it was 42 total, right?
42 total, but we have only identified 34, at least when I left in 2020. There's some victims we were not able to identify. Shout out to a lot of our school resource officers that sat through the yearbooks to identify these students. You can go, I think it's on my website. If not, I'll post it. But we gave out awards to all of them, because that's what was happening. We had school resource officers. This broke right after school ended. It was like the middle, right when, so we had school resource officers had to look through yearbooks to identify these kids. And then the detectives would go knocking on the door inform the parent of what was seen on the video. And some kids still wouldn't even talk after that. Some did. Some corroborated and said, you know,
a lot of trauma with that.
Oh, a lot. I'm still in contact with many of the families through that case because you got, like I said, the youngest was 11, so he's not even out of high school yet, you know? So, and the whole HIV thing, until the medical, at least that time was, the kids had to be 16 for medical to say you are cleared, you're not HIV positive. So those 11-year-olds were going to be going through testing every 6 months. So until they're 16, and that came from Dr. Abney at the health department. Shot out. They worked great with us so that these people could get tested. Confidentiality and privacy is protected. So, but medically, that was what we were told, is that until they're 16 with the antibodies, they had to routinely get tested to know whether or not they were
So
infected.
for 5 years, they have no idea if they're living with this or not.
That's what was the medical guidance that went to the 11, 12, and 13, that they had to continue to get tested.
What happened with Carlos Bell?
He got 209 years.
209?
It was 209 or 109. I forget. I know I should know this off the top of my head, but
Either way, he's not seeing sunlight.
no, he's not staying sunlight. And the United States Attorney's Office, they actually charged him on top of us to make sure that, because Maryland had this Reinvestment Justice Act, and not that they would do it on a kid case, but you never know. You know, our governors change, every 4 years, so you never know. But the U.S. Attorney's Office actually charged on top of us, and with the ages of the kids that they charged with, they had minimum mandatories. So he's doing 90 years minimum mandatory with the feds. So he's not getting. Even if our legislature tries to do another Justice Reinvestment Act that would touch the kid cases, he's not getting out. He's actually in federal prison. We're letting him serve our time in federal prison, so Maryland doesn't have to pay for him.
Let me ask you this. What is the psychology of yourself going to a case like that? Like, do you have to just focus on the job, or do you get yourself too involved in it personally?
So that case was the first case in a long time to even charge it, because you didn't have a victim statement most of the time. I had to watch a lot of the videos with the officers, because in charging, you can't just walk into court and be like, I'm charging this guy with sexual abuse. I have to list specifically what body part touched what body part. Like, so, and I'm signing it, or my boss Tony Covington is signing the indictment. He expects us to know, to the facts be correct, as it should be. And so that particular case, there was a lot of mental health involved in it. Our team itself, when we were done, went through a day together. The Maryland State Police, the ICAC unit was involved. They did the extractions of the computers and stuff. So they set up kind of like a mental health debrief day for all of us involved. And then I took the time out to go talk to someone. You just have to. Mm-hmm. It's just, sometimes there's a lot, and you just have to. You can't let it carry it with you to the next case. You have to, just deal with it and be able to move on impartially to the next case.
Compartmentalize?
Well, see, I did that in the very beginning of my career, way back when, on a case, and but then it's still with me. That didn't work for me, so I just needed to work it out, talk to someone, mm-hmm. and get out my thoughts on it, my personal thoughts on a case, and then move on. So compartmentalize really didn't work for me, because there was still internal anger, if you will.
Right. But now you say you talk to people with cases like this, so mm-hmm. that's I always wonder that. Like, there's a lot of like that's a very heavy case. Children involved, lives being changed mm-hmm. forever. So you taking the time out for yourself is important. About 3 or 4 years ago, Maryland through COMAR made it that these types of cases have to be investigated by what's called a multidisciplinary team through your local Center for Children or Child's Advocacy Center, whichever jurisdiction has what. So that helps, because we have the mental health component there for ourselves. And actually, St. Mary's, we just had our mental health day together as a team last month. So mm-hmm. It helps that people realize that the investigators and workers working these cases, we're not superheroes. So
we need help ourselves to get through the case and move on to the next.
Good. Let's get to some of these comments too as well. Scroll down. I'm reading some of them as we go to as well. Zebby, so devastating, absolutely. Angela, I heard the word groomer. Good that you got him. Sad that everyone who's victimized didn't step forward. I mean, it's tough, for someone that's victimized to talk on it. Here's support for the SROs. Mank, Senior Assistant State's Attorney Proctor is not taking any money from lawyers or firms that appear in front of her. We'll get to that campaign stuff here when we get to it. Don't worry, that's popping up. Let's see, not enough years, in my opinion. He's not getting out. Hopefully in Gen Pop.
No, he's in federal custody.
He's in where?
He's in federal custody. He's serving his sentence in federal custody. I don't know if they have Gen Pop and the Gen Pop in federal custody is different than the Gen Pop in state custody.
How's that work? Just out of curiosity.
Well, once the feds charged him, then his attorney started negotiating, and his attorney was smart. His attorney's like, all right, either agree he serves in federal prison or I'll have a trial for nothing. I'm not going to put a child through it to come and identify that that's me in the photo, me in the video. So, he's in custody and not harming anyone. So he's in federal prison for the rest of his life. So
yeah, he's not getting out to harm anybody else. That's not something you have a trial over, where he serves his time. Yeah, and also you said something key to there as well, having the children come back, relive the event.
Yeah, I mean,
the videos would have to be played in court too as well.
They
correct?
didn't even want to talk about it. Yeah, not half of them never even gave a statement. Like, some did, some didn't. So why force a child to come when you were getting your years, you were getting your time, he was going to be in prison for the rest of his life? Who cared where he served it?
All right, it makes sense for everybody. As a prosecutor, do you have how's that work? Do you have like a conviction rate or?
So when I was in Jacksonville, we were mandated, was with a policy within the office, that we had to fill out a trial sheet after the trial and turn it in to our supervisor.
Right.
So I know Jacksonville kept tabs, but in Maryland, we didn't have that. So to me, I haven't kept track. It's not a win or a lose or the percentage that matter. To me, it matters what's best for the community, what does the victim want, what is the situation with the accused. Is this a case that needs to go to trial and prison is the answer? Or is this a case that rehabilitation needs to be looked at? Because I've done cases where rehabilitation is what we felt all involved at the appropriate response.
Oh, really? Okay.
So the attorneys that work on the defense side that work with me continuously a lot, they will tell you that when mental health or substance abuse comes, I will be the first, if that's the answer that needs to be addressed, I will be one of the first to dive in there with them. I don't really make it easy for them because we lack the resources. What I make them do is I make them get the evaluation up front. I make them get themselves in the help, in the treatment before resolving it. Because there are prosecutors, and one of the judges in St. Mary's said it recently, that I put way too much time into this case than any other prosecutor he knew, where I could have just given an offer right out of the front for probation and out the door. But then I see those people come back because of whatever issue it is, whether it's their mental health or substance abuse. They don't have the direction to follow the directions when they get out of the court. So to me, if it's a rehabilitation case, then we need to put the time up front, get them the evaluation, get them in whatever placement they need, and get them going on the right track. Because if it's a hassle for them to come back to court, they're going to do it. If they want to help themselves, they're going to get themselves in the position to not to have to come from court. So there are cases that rehabilitation has been the answer. It's usually not a violent crime, though.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that too as well.
It's not a violent crime, though.
You mentioned that your goal is not to have these individuals come back to court.
Well, that's better for the society and community.
Right.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people said here that they're tired of repeat offenders, being out again. Here they are again. Someone mentioned, Leftwich mentioned ankle monitoring too as well. So
I see that's a hot topic because I've seen his comments on other sites.
But your goal was to figure it out from the first time they get there.
I do.
And not to have this individual come back into the courtroom.
That is true. And some defense attorneys, they wish I would just let them. They take a fee up front, and then they realize
let me work. Let me get I get paid out here.
Yeah, they realized they should have charged for like 5 court appearances versus 2. So this is what it is.
Ashley has a question here. Have you prosecuted any murder cases?
Yeah. Yes. Some of the major ones are on my website. So, and I have a couple now in St. Mary's that are pending, so I can't talk about those. Okay. But there are a couple on my website. I talked about, there was one out on Bowie Road in Angemore, and just in transparency, that it was Ashley's cousin that was killed, Wayne Proctor.
Oh, wow.
He was killed in front of his wife and 5 children. They were very young. I think the youngest son just graduated high school, if I'm correct. This year, but he was killed by an acquaintance, a friend, they called him, but he was gunned down in front of his wife and children. Oof. So I prosecuted that one. I prosecuted the case on Tillman on drug tenancy property. Thompson. That was a drug-induced one. Oh, God. I'm blanking. There's been the DUI fatalities, but trying to think what else in Charles County. I know there's more, but I can't. I'm blanking on the names.
Okay. How do those cases end up resolving? There was a plea bargain. They go to trial.
Oh, Yates. How am I forgetting John Yates? Okay, it's coming back to me. He was the victim. Okay. They're coming back to me. Well, so in Ashley's cousin's case, Wayne Proctor, the victim, that went to trial because the defense wanted to blame it on the induced drugs that the defendant was under, except he fled into the woods. He wasn't found right away. So we didn't have like a chemical test. We had, a statement from a defendant through his attorney that and killing in front of your kids and wife, so something to note for the public is, and I don't know that this has changed since I left the Charles County office, but Tony Covington, the state attorney, his hands are in every homicide case, no matter, if who's assigned to prosecute it, as it should be, because he's the state attorney. So any offers and plea deals and everything always include discussion with Tony Covington. So in the discussion of this case, there was an offer made. The defendant did not want it, and he went to trial, and he ended up getting more time than our offer, 5 years more. But you have to look at what's best for the community. What the victim wants is considered. The victims always have a role. They don't have total control over it. We could override them at any moment, but they do have to be notified and given a right to speak. Listening to the defense attorneys, a lot of them will come. It's not it's not like TV. The defense bar in Charles County and St. Mary's, because a lot of them practice in both counties, they will come talk to you and discuss the case and tell you from their point of view. And sometimes we have a discussion about it. Sometimes we just disagree. And it's a trial, and that's in our Constitution. Let's have a trial and let the jury decide. And then it's the judge's job on the sentencing. And as a prosecutor, that's my job, is to look out for the community.
Let's read some of these comments.
Okay.
Let's scroll up here. So Jamila had a question. I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but I'll read it. Given the Carlos Bell case, are there any recommendations you would have for a CCPS background check team?
So, hi, Jamila. After the Carlos Bell, I was with several meetings, and it was more of a courtesy over there at the Board of Education, just so they could. Mr. Covington, I believe, came to a couple too. Now I'm jogging my memory. We had several meetings to discuss, just from the Board of Ed welcomed our opinion basically on in reviewing the evidence, what we found. In that case, in the Carlos Bell, one of the major things was the social media, and they did put in place social media parameters on who can contact staff contacting the kids. As far as backgrounds, they did widen their background search afterwards. I know I want to say now they involve Social Security. They involve so much. They run their check through more databases now than they did before. But here's the thing in 19 years of doing this, when you come to a child predator, one that abuses kids in this way, most of them go unnoticed and they're off the radar. So they're not going to show up. They're not going to have a criminal history. They're not going to be on the Social Security database. They're not going to, because they keep their life away from everyone. They hide it. And so there's not a lot of red flags for these guys unless you're in their personal space. So the public school system, and they listened to us where we thought the concerns were from the social media, and educating teachers when to recognize that something may be off. Because there were instances in that case that other personnel should have been like, hey, what's going? So they did take those appropriate steps forward.
And it came from your office recommendations.
Well, us and the sheriff's. It was like there was a whole meeting. It was more than just our office. We were one person invited to the table.
Gotcha. Okay.
I mean, because after that, I went and spoke 1 year at to the administrators and I think principals. It was just administrators and principals at their sexual harassment and training and all sexually awareness or whatever. And I went and spoke and gave tips, just red flag tips, that you may want to inquire, say something, not just brush it under the rug. So I know that they have taken steps forward. I don't see any teachers in the news getting arrested anymore, so
it's a start.
It's a start, right? We had a bunch for a while there.
So Mr. Lethbridge has a question here, and he had an earlier question too as well. And I'm gonna go in this one, then I'll follow up with the second one. But you may answer it here. So let's see what we got. You seem good for us, but bad for criminals, which is good. But the world is changing. How are you going to help Charles County move forward? So
I have, and ironically, this was before Carlos Bell came to light, before it became in the courts. So when I started in 2014, my role was the sexual violence liaison, whatever the title was that Mr. Covington gave me. But part of that was sitting through the child fatality reviews. So every county has to have a child fatality review team, and the state's attorney's office has a seat at the table, and you have to review the death, the circumstances of the child's death. But the team consists of the public school system, the health department, law enforcement, and if there was another need for any other public entity, depending on the facts, they were at the table. Mm-hmm. And you basically have to dissect it afterwards. And the goal is there any way that the community could have been involved to prevent it? Like, what can we as a community do to prevent? And we also have these groups on the heroin, the overdose cases too. So after the first year, I was, because I came from Orlando and Jacksonville, where they're not rural areas. So the resources were way, you could walk out the door and they're right there. But then coming here to a rural area, they're not so prevalent. So after a year of sitting on this child fatality review, I couldn't just sit there any longer. So I went to Mr. Covington and I pitched him this idea I had that we did in Florida. And I said, I want to pitch it to the child fatality review team to see if they'll partner with me and we can all do it, but I want can we do it? Can the state's attorney, can we put this on through the office? And he 100% said yes. So what that was, it was called a health and safety fair. So the first year we did it was in 2016, or 16, I have that right? Yeah. 2015, at JP Ryan. That time, the sergeant of the SVU, his wife at the time was the vice principal over there. So we were able to get the approval through that avenue. So I set up this Charles health and safety fair. We had fire, the police, we had mental health resources. We had, it was in October, so we had flu shots on a Saturday. We had internet safety classes. We had bike helmets, because that year we lost a kid to a bike death, getting hit by a car on his bike. The car wasn't going that fast. It wasn't like speed was an issue. We had car seat safety check where they could get car seats, because a lot of families either can't afford them or they just reuse one because they can't afford to buy another one. So they've had the same one for 10 years and they expire and they crack, and that lessens the durability of them. Mm-hmm. So, and again, we had so many community partners. QCI was out there. The Child Advocacy Center, health issues were out there. And I got a raffle system together. Westlake High School came out to help out, to volunteer students from there. We had the gym open for just some like fun exercises. And it was really good, but we realized that to continue doing this, we needed to reach more of the community. And JP Ryan doesn't have the best parking because you got to either park in that field or...
I'm familiar with that school.
Yeah, so we didn't have enough parking. So it was like, so the next year following that, we teamed up with Benjamin Stoddard and called it the Health and Safety Block Party because they did a block party in October every year too. Mm-hmm. And that is more, we reached more of all the walkable communities right there. So ever since then, we've been doing it every year at Benjamin Stoddard, is pushing out the health and safety of the community and getting the resources out there, getting the knowledge of the resources out there. The only year we didn't do it was 2020 because of COVID. We did do it last year. It's very important to me. I still organized it last year despite me not being with the Charles County State's Attorney's Office. I still organized it with Principal Williams for last year, and I continue to be a part of it this year, hopefully. And like I said, right before we started, I've worked on with another group today. I had a planning session for another community event, and there's so many partners in this one. I don't want to steal each other's thunder. Like, it's going to be announced jointly, but we have another big community resource day, if you will, coming up that we are going to push out here soon. So stay tuned on that. But that's, to answer your question, it's getting the knowledge and the resources out to the community. Because like I said, I'd rather if someone comes to court, I'd rather them leave in a better position, as long as that's the right answer for the community, that they return to the community in a better position than when they enter the courtroom.
And not to see them again.
Not to see them again, if that's the right answer, yes.
So, Leftwich's earlier question to us, back to that, it actually works out very well. So big question. Why do you decide to run for judge? So, during, let's see, COVID came February or March of 2020. So, right? 2020 is when COVID came? I think so. Yes.
So, okay. So, when the court shut down, although I said earlier, I still went into the office, there was a lot of reflection time. Just with my family, where I was at, where I wanted to go. And it was a hard decision just to leave the Charles County State's Attorney's Office and go to St. Mary's. But they offered me a position that, something they didn't have an SVU unit. They needed to get into regulations with Comar and everything. So that was so I was kind of establishing something there for them. Mm-hmm. So, but then COVID came, and you're in this whole new world of, prosecuting, and you're kind of alone in the office because not everyone's in. And it was just more of a reflection on what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go with my career. And focusing on that. I know I still wanted to serve my community. I still wanted to be part of my community. Right. But I just wanted to use my expertise in the rules of law, the evidence, the use of discretion, when compassion, when not compassion, and use that in a way that I could still serve my community, but yet would fulfill me as well as a person. So that's what based my decision.
To make the plunge to go for it.
Yep. Wow, those are a lot of comments. Am I going to see all the comments later?
Oh, yeah, for sure. They'll all populate on here. It plays back on the live.
You're a magician with reading all this and keeping up with it.
Yeah, I kind of look at some things and like they have the conversation
between themselves. Oh, Pascal, a teacher got
there.
arrested in March of this year. Oh.
Yeah, I just asked Pascal to get some more information.
Is it just one? Because I was averaging like 5 per year when I was there, unfortunately.
5 per year?
Oh, yeah. It was bad. It was a rampage. It was bad.
Good Lord. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your legal career. Did you do any defense too as well?
No, I did not do any. I have not done any defense.
Okay. It's always been. Were you ever interested in defense, or was prosecution more so your lane?
No, I was interested. I was interested in defense early on. Like I said, they placed us in our position when you signed up to do. You you didn't know if you were going to the Office of Public Defender or the State's Attorney's Office. So they placed us. But early on in my career in Jacksonville, the way they had their office set up is, it was during my second year. I was the lead felony attorney in this trial unit, and which meant you also did, if a juvenile got filed as an adult, taken out of juvenile court and placed in an adult case, you handled that. So I got this case. The girl was 8. It was the first time that pet therapy was used in Florida. I used pet therapy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But she was 8, and they were getting ready. It was a Saturday before school was going to start, and it was hair day, and Mom was going to do her hair and her cousin's hair, and a neighbor in the community sold like push pops, like a little ice cream. So the victim left her home to go get push pops for her and her cousin to sit and eat while Mom did the hair, and she never returned. And after about 15 minutes, Mom went out screaming. People went out screaming. No one could find her. Mom called Dad. Dad came screaming, can't find her. She never made it to the neighbor's house for the push pops, which was like literally diagonal across the street. Called the police. Police are out searching. As they're searching, someone hears moans from the wood line, and she is found in the woods. Breathing, but she is very half-dressed, traumatized. She's to the hospital. She pulls through. She did have some injuries, some crushed ribs, like broken. She had a plastic bag over her face when they found her. But she was not verbal. She was not verbal. She was a verbal kid, but she was not verbal about what happened. And we were able to identify and arrest and charge and convict the 14-year-old across the street.
Oh.
Through forensic evidence. But in Florida, if the juvenile does not waive trial, you have to get him to trial within 90 days, which is a very short time. So forensics, everything was rushed, like sped up. But I had 90 days to get this girl to talk, because in trial, I needed her to talk. So her parents, we met every Saturday almost. Her parents told me that she always wanted a dog. And I knew of this group that was pushing to get pet therapy in to the sexual violence kids and stuff. So we met, and they had this collie, this golden collie, and every Saturday, pretty much, this golden collie would come to my office. She would come in, and she'd just pet and play. And about a month before trial, she started talking to me. So the next Saturday, I had a detective come, and she talked with the detective while just petting and playing with this collie. We recorded it, but then I filed a motion in court, and the jury never knew the dog was there because we sat her in the chair ahead of time. The collie was under her feet, and the jury couldn't see. All they saw was a box around her, and the dog never said a word, never barked, and she told her story. She knew who he was. She knew who the neighborhood kid was. She played with him before, and she knew. And from that case on, that case just solidified that I was going to stay the prosecution route. It just did.
Get those convictions. Make sure that
it's just working. It's not really it's just working to see what the progress that she made in that such short time. And I still have her letter pinned to my wall. She wrote every other letter is a different color. She was 8, but she went her father 6 months later was killed in a armed robbery at a convenience store in Jacksonville, gone bad. He was stopped to buy milk or something. Yeah. Oh, God. So I stayed with her. When I say I stayed with that family, I stayed with it was just, but she has pulled through. She's graduated high school. She is a sophomore in college. So
oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah, she had some time. She took some time between high school and college, but she took some time off. But yeah, no. So that case there, just going through that and seeing that, at least I made a difference to that little girl, and it was just that someone, was there for her. So that just solidified that. So I was going to be a prosecutor.
Can't argue with that. Mr. Leftwich has a question here, and this is actually a really good one too as well. He asked this earlier. is it possible? I don't know if this is already an existing program, but as far as the courthouse working with the public school system, as far as like a shadow program, or even get these kids down the better path too as well.
So I hope so, Mr. Leftwich, and this is what I will say. When I first got here, the sergeant of the SVU at that time, he's now a captain, David Kelly. I don't think he'll mind if I say his name. We repeatedly asked Dr. Hill to let us in the school, because our what we call our sexting cases, where sending images and talking and all this stuff was through the roof. And we repeatedly asked, let us come in and educate, because we felt a lot of the problem was when the sheriff's office, or when I get the call from the upset parent, why am I not charging this 9, 10-year-old, or even 11, 12, 13? Like, why are we not charging for a text like,
just take it back some sexting, as far as
we call that, like, sending naked images of each other.
So these are all underage children, though.
Yes.
So they're sending, minor, all that. Okay, all right. Just make sure we're on the same page.
Yeah, but a lot of it we found out was education. They didn't know. One, they didn't know there was a law. Two, they didn't really know what they were doing.
Right.
The younger they were, they didn't know. So we begged, Dr. Hill and her team to let us in, and we got refused every single time. So I hope, one of my goals now that we have a new superintendent, that if I do get elected, is to offer programs, because when I was in Jacksonville, we had what was called a student outreach program, a SORT program, and you can volunteer as an ASA, and I did, and you got assigned a school, and you had to go once every quarter at least. However, if the principal or a teacher or administrator, anyone said, I have this hot topic of a button I need you to come speak on, we would make time and go speak on. And like one time, I remember there was this prevalent where the kids would bring the empty pill bottles of their parents around, all pour them in a bowl or something, and they would just like drink them up, and they didn't know what they were drinking. And it was like something fun to do, but that's like the stupidest thing to do at the same time. So like I remember for a month I went and spoke on that at a school, that evidently that was the popular thing. So, but it's good. I think it's all in your delivery. You don't have to do it where you're scaring the crap out of them.
Scare straight programs, things like that.
I mean, you do it more as educational learning experience so they can learn from it, because that's what you want them to do. So I hope that if I get elected, the superintendent, maybe this one, the new one, will let programs in. I hope so.
I'm going to ask this question, then I want to turn over to something else. Do you ever feel like your hands are tied during prosecuting?
Yeah, I mean, at times my hands are tied, because again, if the evidence isn't there, no matter what that victim or officer is saying in front of you, the law controls, and the application of the law controls. So I can't respond to emotions, so at times, lots of times my hands are tied, but that, to me, my oath is to follow the law. It's part of my job to have those difficult conversations with law enforcement and the victims and say, I'm sorry, it's just not there. I understand that this trauma happened to you, but the evidence is not there. You never tell them the trauma didn't happen to them, but you don't get into that with them. You get into the law. And so at times my hands are tied by the law when you're faced with compassion and emotions in front of you, but the law is the law.
And you have to respect it regardless.
Oh, absolutely.
Evidence, all that. You just take what was given.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, Leftwich, good or bad thing? I mean, it's really, I guess, really just depends on what's in front of you.
I think it would depend on your personality. Like, I mean, I've been doing this for 19 years, so I'm okay personally with knowing my job is to follow the law. And I can live with that, and I don't have any self-guilt or doubt about that. So I think it comes down to the personality of the person doing the job.
Let's talk endorsements.
Okay.
So who have you been? I've seen your page. You've been endorsed by a lot of different groups. Do you want to talk on that?
So, so there's a lot of individuals, residents of the county, that have endorsed me based on either being a witness or a victim to a crime that I prosecuted. There is a lot of the, I shouldn't say a lot, but some of the different entities, groups that I've worked with the community. The Department of Social Services, St. Mary's is currently on there. Trying to think what else is on there. But yeah, there's a lot of citizens, like that citizens that care. There's a lot of citizens on there. I know that. So yeah, I was releasing about one a week, as they came in. There is more to release. It's just a timing thing of, when to release it versus primary, and knowing that there's a general too.
Yeah, just taking your time dropping them out. So
yeah, because I also wanted to highlight each year at Benjamin Star in the community, the day that I came up with, that it's a balancing effect of getting the information out. And since there's 3 of us, I've been told that there will be more groups of endorsement, that we'll be making endorsements after the primary. Since there's 3 of us in our race, and it's a nonpartisan race, which means as long as you're registered, June 28th is the deadline, guys. You have to be registered as a Republican or Democrat to vote in the judicial race. And the top 2 will go on to the general. So I've been told by several groups that they're waiting till after the primary to do interviews for endorsements and stuff like that.
And the top 2. And obviously Leftwich Judge Brown is Judge Moniz Brown. He's been on the podcast before, you know this.
Yeah.
That's incumbent right now. And the other individual is
Adrian Davis.
There it is. I remember the last name, Davis, couldn't remember the first name. So, as far as political party, you can't accept an endorsement from them since judges have to remain nonpartisan.
So the rule is during the election season, you can accept it, but I can't go and endorse that party. I can accept an endorsement, but I was given a copy of the Republican Central Committee letter, which, by the way, he spelt my name wrong. So I didn't proofread it.
Mr. Ashburn.
I know how to spell my own name. I didn't proofread it. I didn't get a copy ahead of time. So I can accept that, but I can't then go and say, hey, everyone, I endorse the RCC. I can't do that.
Right.
So during the rule is the word is align, which means you can accept, but you can't then go be a proponent of that group. And such as the Reopen Charles County PAC, shout out to Allie Rack.
Shout out to Allie.
Yeah. I can take an invitation from them, which I did. I went to their May 5th event. But I can't then go, and I spoke, it was at the Moose Lodge, which I'm a member of, so I gave an opening welcome, but I can't then go and endorse them to the public for everyone to get on to their ideas.
Right.
So, yeah. So during the election cycle, you can basically take the endorsement, but you can't go give them out.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Ashburn, for that. And then in return, this is what I would do for you.
No, you can't do that.
There it is. Derek Terry, this is a nonpartisan position, and I respect it, as I know you do too as well. What do you make of any central committee targeting nonpartisan positions?
So, hi, Mr. Terry. I don't know if the right word. I've definitely heard about it, and I've definitely seen it on social media. And because I'm trying to stay out of it, and not say anything. One of the main reasons is I don't know how this is going to go. And if something is filed in court and I become the sitting judge, then I put myself in the middle of it, which that can't happen. I will say this, and this goes back even before this election cycle. It goes back probably the last couple election cycles. Even in my personal life, I'm not big on talking politics with everyone. I mean, everyone has their opinion and I respect it, but I wish it wasn't so cutthroat on which party you align yourself with. I wish it was more, I wish that wasn't the identifier. I wish people would actually listen to each other's thoughts more so of who they identify with, like a label. You know what I'm saying? Because when you start identifying people on a label, I grew up being bullied. I was bullied when I was younger. I was one of the last few girls in my class to mature. Okay. So when labels were put on me younger, it's just something that stigmatization with me just doesn't sit well. So I don't like when it's done in politics. I'd rather people just listen to each other, to what their thoughts are and what their goals are, and get over the stigmatization of which party, because until that happens, I don't know that we're ever going to get commonality.
Yeah, and especially in local elections, I would rather everyone just to run as nonpartisan.
Oh, that. I think locally that would be great.
It'll make things so much easier, and some people just kind of coast to victory in the winter months.
So much easier, because then you're not stigmatizing them. People are actually listening to what the goals of each other are.
Right, and everything's policy based, and you actually you got to listen. Mm-hmm. Makes things easier for us too as well.
Yeah,
I'm all for that, but let's see if that ever happens. Leftwich, never. Moose Lodge, White Plains, never been there. We were there. That's where I met you. That's where we met at. Yeah. Uh-huh. That was a good event. Yeah.
So the Moose Lodge, it's a community service based group. It's in White Plains off 301. Mm-hmm. We do different events for the community. Coming up, we are doing for Special Olympics again in July. We're actually hosting some of the athletes that just competed in Orlando from Charles County.
Oh.
Yeah, they just got done with their competition about 2 weeks ago.
So that's in July? They're going to be there?
Yeah, they're going to be July 28th. I can share that. They're going to be there July 28th.
I need to be there.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Thursday night's our pizza night, so we're going to host some of the athletes. But it's a community-based organization. It's kind of like, I hate to use their term fraternity or sorority, but it's kind of like that. We do different projects for the community. We teamed up with St. Joseph's during the winter months for their pantry and stuff like that, for food drives and stuff like that. So it's a community-based organization.
Mr. Leftwich, you should get involved with that too as well.
I'll sponsor you, Mr. Leftwich.
Not to mention the bartender there is fantastic.
Oh, and it's really cheap drinks too.
I think I got what I get. It was $2 something. Either way, it came to like $8 with tip.
Yep.
I couldn't believe it.
Yep.
So yeah, I need to look more into this. I talked to you about this offline.
Yeah, sure.
So let's talk about your campaign so far, running for judge. How's the reaction been out there? How's the reception? How's the campaign going for you?
I think it's going well. I mean, the reception's been good. Mm-hmm. There's highs and lows with everything you do in life, and it's just how you handle those. And I said very early on when the first shot came, the first, I guess, eye-opener that, this was going to be like, nitty gritty or.
Oh, you're in it now.
Yeah, as some people said, I have not labeled it, but some people have labeled it as cutthroat. But early on, it came to my attention. Was Soup Day. So I teamed up with County Manners and a realtor in town, Jack Osteen, and his mom, Kathy Whitethorn. They're with Remax, to do a free soup giveaway in March for the needy, the homeless, anyone that was struggling. Mm-hmm. You didn't have to be homeless, but we did homeless, needy, anyone. Just come up, he did, County Manners did chicken noodle or chili. But just come up, meet us, grab some soup. And we had I have a graphic person, made a flyer, sent the flyer out. Someone went to share it on Charles County Matters, and it got declined. And the reason why it got declined, I should probably pull up the screenshot and read it directly. But the first,
oh yeah, please do. Yeah, let's see this. Let's see this. I'm curious.
All right,
curious.
so I'm going to read it word for word. I'm going to finish saying as I talk, as I find it, because this was back in March. So basically, it got declined because on the flyer, I was one of the sponsors. And they basically said that if you take my name off of it, that they'll put it up. But they weren't going to do it then.
Uh-huh.
But it came out because I got to scroll to March. Isn't there a way? There's a way.
Oh, don't worry. We and the people have time.
But I'm getting there. Here we go. So the person that posted it asked why is it declined? And the response was, "Good morning. And the admins decided to stay out of the nonpartisan judge race. Please repost the flyer without the endorsement. Thank you." It wasn't an endorsement. It was sponsored by, because it was my event. Okay. So this person not wanting to get into with the admin, Duran, it is him, just says, "We'll do back." Just says, "We'll do back." And then Duran responds with, one of the admins is related to the Judge Hogan appointee, and it wouldn't be fair. So they're not staying out of it, right? So he then says, I got you. Well, regardless of politics, I hope we can get the word out to those that could use a hot meal and some hospitality. It's Sarah's event, and I just happen to be, lucky to be of this. So, and he just ends it at that. So that was early. So at that point I knew, but about a couple days later, I ran into Adrienne Davis because she does criminal cases. She's in the courthouse all the time. Mm-hmm. So, and she told me she was having, nothing of hers was being allowed to be posted on this Charles County Manners page. However, our third opponent can post anything and everything all day long.
It's only 25,000 people in there.
Yeah.
Not too much.
Not too much. So Miss Davis and I did a joint request post, and you can scroll back on my Facebook. It's there. And did a joint post request to our, not only sharing what was just read and everything, but we asked our third opponent to join us in condemning, what was being done on this page and to make it open and fair.
As a Charles County Town Square.
Yeah. Come join us. Be fair. Uh-huh. And we never heard anything back. So me and Miss Davis joined in our own fight, but we never heard anything back from anyone.
Well, Mr. Charles, he'll be here on Monday. Let's see if we can find the answer.
It is what it is. So I learned early on that this was going to be, okay, not everything is going to be as fair as it should be. And that's all the reaction they were going to get out of me. We're not, we moved on from that. But a lot of things you just got to let it go. Not even respond to it. Just don't respond to it. Just let it go and move on.
And you got Derek Terry's Charles County Community Forum is fair.
Yes, it is. A shout out. It is. He lets us post in there on a certain day of the week, I think.
Yeah, certain days.
I have it written down at home. What group is what day and who's open? I haven't written down at home, but yes.
But only on Tuesdays.
Yeah, see? But only on Tuesdays.
Yeah, there it is. Mm-hmm. So
yep.
I'll post this podcast tomorrow. Charles County Community Forum. Hey, Derek, approve that. But that's good though. I mean, you're saying exactly what anytime you beat it, a lot of candidates come here. Anytime you're trying to beat an incumbent, it's just tough. Mm-hmm, so you got things stacked up against you, but you're running the campaign.
Not to pick words, you say incumbent. She's the appointee because the Constitution says elected by the people.
That's true too as well.
She's the appointee. So
this will be her first time running. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it will be. Good. It's as far as running for judge, is there any tenets that you have or ideas that you can talk about, or is that just getting too far into being impartial?
What do you mean?
Like what day one? Well, I get in the circuit court. This is things I'm looking to do, or this is how I'm looking to approach this, that, and the third, or are those things that you can't really talk about as far as?
Well, so if it's because obviously there's areas with the circuit court bench that I don't practice on in criminal law. Right. Some of the family, like the best interest child standard, comes up in the criminal cases especially when it's an in the home offender. And then you have the civil, because sometimes you're like, this is a civil issue. It's not a criminal issue with theft and money and stuff. So, you're aware of the difference. But if there's ever an area which I'm sure there will be, not one person's an expert at everything. Mm-hmm. But if there's ever an area that I need help with, I do the research. I will research. I will read the book, the rule book, the law book. Mm-hmm. I will research the case law, and we do have great judges on the bench, and I'll consult with my colleagues. And if I have to, other judges out of the area that I know and have a rapport with. So, it's a matter of being a community and teamwork and getting it done.
Yeah, there's how many judges currently on the...
So there's 5 in circuit for Charles County.
Got it.
We have 5.
And I believe we talked earlier, this race will be the last one until about 7-8 years from now.
I believe 7 to 8 years, unless we have an early retirement or they expand the number from Annapolis, decides to give us another position. Mm-hmm. This will be the last judicial race to affect the bench for 7 to 8 years until the next judge is up for re-election.
What do you think your mindset as a judge would be?
I think my mindset would be similar to what it is as a prosecutor, except I say that I am ready to move on from being a prosecutor. Mm-hmm. It is a lot of wear and tear on the mind.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of wear and tear on the family, my family, and the sacrifices that they have made. Mm-hmm. We have left vacations early. Like, it's a lot.
Oh, wow.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, I'm ready to move on, but I want to do it in a way that I still serves my community. And so my mindset will be what's best for the community. Mm-hmm. But also in that is, on the criminal end, what's best for the community with this person standing before me? Is it best for the community that he not return to the community, or is it best that for the community that he goes back to the community with rehabilitation? Mm-hmm. So I think it's community. I think it's accountability, which is exactly what from the beginning I have said is accountability, and how I will apply it will be with fairness, equality, and transparency to those that come before me and to the community. I want to dive into more if I become elected, because I see the comments out there mm-hmm. that people that, the judges aren't being named, but like the social media rules with the judges are very, very strict. So, and trust me, I can't wait till mine goes back to, no offense, like 100 friends. It's just not in my nature. I'm sorry, it's just not in my nature. That's really, really hard for me is to open up to and be, I get the hash marks and all this when we're doing stuff with cases and IT and all this, but it's one thing to read it and know how it works, to put it in evidence, and another thing to then actually do it. Mm-hmm. I'm just not the doer on that side. Like I could live without social media. But so
for campaign purposes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, I was the last one in my family to get on because my sister stopped refusing to send pictures of my nieces to me. So that tells you something. But, so I definitely think that, I want to stay community oriented like I am now. So my approach would be in that factor.
Okay. We're almost at, pretty much at 2 hours at this point right now.
Oh, wow, really?
Oh, yeah. Kind of BNY time travel. What's left wish? What's the pay scale? We've looked at you've asked this question to Judge Brown last time she was here too as well. As far as pay scale for a judge.
So I believe it's at it's published on the Maryland courts. So, and I don't know if it's going up this July 1st or not, but I think it's 170 something. I think. So, and I will just say this: St. Mary's State's Attorney's Office pays better than Charles County State's Attorney's Office for me. So,
we got to talk to you about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Covington. Okay. Before we get out of here, I'm looking at some of these questions too as well. I'm gonna scroll up. Is there anything you'd like to say to the voters, where to find you as social media, all these things too as well, as far as anything your campaign related events?
So, my goal between now, so I started door knocking in May because we had a lot of rainy weekends. So I started some door knocking in May. So my goal right now is to do as much door knocking as I can. I do have a couple. I don't have any events of my own that I'm doing before the primary, but I do have events that I'm attending. I do need to update on that on my website, which is www.thepeopleforsarahproctor.com. And if any I know there's a couple yard sign requests. I'm getting to them. I will deliver them this week, or have my husband deliver them. Someone will be delivering them. And then I have my Facebook page, Elect Sarah Proctor, Circuit Court Judge. There is also a YouTube channel, Sarah Proctor, and yeah, that's it. And the YouTube channel you can link from the website, the www.peopleforsarahproctor.com. If you go up in the top right hand, there's a YouTube little button to check, as well as the Facebook. But my website has a lot of information on it. We've posted videos of endorsements from residents and cases I've done and everything on there.
Okay, that's where you can find you at. So Deron Charles, while you were talking, popped up in here too. So Deron, what's going on? He said Charles County Matters is under control of the FCC and the internet is free. And Deron, we did talk about the letter too as well, probably about 20, 30 minutes ago. So I don't know if you have any comment with that or you just want to move from there.
I mean, they spelt my name wrong. I didn't see it ahead of time or anything like that, but I was given a copy after the fact.
But we did go into the part.
Definitely
where we
didn't
asked
endorse
about
my wrong name being spelled.
Yeah, we talked about that as far as endorsement, that they can endorse you election season, but you can openly endorse them too as well.
Correct. I cannot endorse them back.
Yeah, so we talked about that. Deron, looking forward to you coming here next Monday too as well. Let's see. Canvassing is key. Jamila knows that. Board of Education candidate too as well. She'll be here next week.
Angela, in fairness, when Michael Electric View, in fairness and in transparency, when I get home tomorrow from work, I will put the letter up on my website, the www.thepeopleforsarahproctor.com. I guess I'll put it under the endorsements tab. But it has my name. I guess I'll put it there just for sake of. But I will put it up there. I don't mind sharing it. It's one paragraph about me. The rest is about other people. But I'll put it up in transparency. I'll put it up.
Okay, there it is. Let's see. Yeah, we're probably at the 2 hour mark. Anything else on your mind? Anything else you'd like to talk about before we get out of here?
No, I'm good. I'm just going to say thank you all for tuning in, and I appreciate your consideration on July 19th, the primary.
Yeah, and you said there's 3 of you running, and the first 2 go to the general.
The top 2 will go on to November, so one of us will not be going on.
Okay. All right, we'll see how that goes. But once again, thank you for all of this.
Thank you.
We talked back in April to get this podcast started.
Yeah.
We had a date in May. You couldn't make it, so we scheduled for June 15th. I couldn't make it, so then we did this matinee podcast. Yeah. So
I was worried about the turnout, but it looks like we had a good turnout.
I was curious, like 2 p.m.
Yeah, 2 p.m. on a holiday.
Yeah,
like
that. Angela's why'd you do in the evening? I'm like, I coach too as well in the evening, so a lot of times on podcasts.
Soccer was over for us, so that when soccer was over and that coaching was over with, I was like, one thing, I'm like, because that coaching twice a week and games, that was a little, and juggling campaign and work, that was.
I couldn't imagine.
Those 2 months were a little busy.
I couldn't imagine. This is my last week. We're doing the 3v3 tournament.
Okay.
This week, and put me in, Coach Leftwich. You come out there, man. You're more than welcome. To come out there for sure. I ain't putting you in the game though, but you can sit on the sidelines with me, provide some commentary. Actually, I got an idea, Leftwich. I'm gonna run it past you. I got an idea. So yeah, right. that's it, Sarah. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes,
absolutely.
Thank you.
Next podcast will be Thursday. We have Diary Butler Washington running for school board on here. As I mentioned before, Deron Charles will be here Monday, June 27th. We have Jamila Smith. She'll be here on the 28th, and Julie Brown will be here on the 30th. All school board members from here on out. Rest of the month, it's all school board. So bring all your CCPS questions, SROs, everything. Let's have a good discussion. Meet these candidates. So Sarah, thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're wonderful. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Absolutely. And with that being said, Dev should be back too as well. Dev should be back.
Yeah, I miss Dev.
Yeah, I do too as well. Love have my guy here. Thank you, BNY, Sarah, Freeman, Proctor, Charles County candidate, Circuit Court Judge. Thank you, Angela. And thank y'all too as well, Charles County. Definitely appreciate everybody. Sarah, let's get out of here.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, everyone.
See ya. What's going on with you?
Yo, another day in the lab, baby. So it's always a good day.
Oh,
it's always a good day when we in the lab. You want policing to be better in your communities? The best policing that you can that can happen in any community are people that's actually from the community and that.
Once again, Rick, host BNY podcast, now known as What Happened Week with BNY. Dev, how you feeling, man?
I'm in here.
What's good? Comment section.
Yeah.
Do we drag our people down when sometimes they don't deserve it? For sure, absolutely. In this situation, this man deserves every single dragging that we can do because this is not an example of us.
But you got the angles. You he got the knowledge of the game, bro.
This is where you getting at the IQ.
Down. Like he's telling you what's going on. He was a bad husband. He was just doing things his way. He's apologizing to his wife, like, yo.
Pat ourselves on the back for that one because we didn't give yourself awards. I mean, who is?
Yeah, no more.
Hey.